Well, it's 12:04, Kathy. Do you want to go ahead and get started?
Absolutely. So welcome to the April virtual meeting of the Wadsworth Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm Kathy Brighton-Butcher of Medina County Economic Development Corporation and the Vice President of Wadsworth Chamber Board of Directors. So I have a couple announcements real quick first. We're excited to announce that our May 19th Chamber meeting will be in person at the Galaxy. The program is the State of the Schools Address with our very own Dr. Andy Hill, who will do an amazing job and will love following Matt, I'm confident. We've checked with the Medina County Health Department on COVID safety, and here are the guidelines we will be following. Registration is required. So let's all take that in for a minute. You have to register. If you're not registered, you're not getting in because only 100 people are allowed in total. Masks must be worn into the Galaxy and when you're not eating. There will not be any business spotlight tables, and we're asking that you not mingle. And Janie, you're not allowed to hug. I know that's going to be hard. But please sit down at your seat and lunch will be served. It's not a buffet, it's a plated lunch. And instead of the usual 10 people per table, there will only be 6. So there will be plenty of 6-foot distancing and it'll be just fine. If you're not comfortable seeing it in person, or if you just can't make it out, or you don't register, you will be able to see it on WCTV's Facebook Live. So thank you, WCTV, for providing that. And the recipients of the Wadsworth Chamber scholarships are invited to this luncheon as well. The Wadsworth metal garden signs will be available for sale at the May meeting. Those are really great. If you haven't seen them, do we have it up on the website?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll get a picture out just so you can see what you're looking at. They're $25 each, and if you're not attending the luncheon, you can purchase it through the chamber office. On Thursday, May 6th at 5 p.m., the Wadsworth Chamber and Medina Chamber members are invited to a grand reopening ceremony at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Stouffer Realty. The Realty Company is located at 3637 Medina Road, so that's right across from Bueller's on Route 18. And it's a big building that you can go in, and it's really a nice space. And there is an open house scheduled afterward, the short ceremony. The Wadsworth Young Professionals are hosting their next monthly meeting on Thursday, May 27th from 8 to 9 a.m. You can either join virtually through their Facebook page or Zoom or in person at Rise and Grind in downtown Wadsworth. The guest mentor is our very own Christy Beal from State Farm Insurance, and she will be speaking about her life and career, so that'll be a fun one. Fun to learn more about Christy. Mindful of COVID, individual membership fees are being waived this year for young professionals. They do have a few businesses that have stepped up to sponsor this year. That doesn't mean they aren't accepting additional sponsorships, so feel free. But events are currently limited to 10 people, and reservations are required to attend if you want to be in person. The Zoom into Business videos have been receiving great reviews. Once this video is scheduled, Janie will send you a Zoom login information along with 4 or 5 questions about your business. The interviews last about 5 to 7 minutes. And once the video is uploaded to the Chamber's YouTube channel, it's sent as an e-blast to 1,000 Chamber representatives. It's included in the weekly newsletter. It's posted on the Chamber's Facebook page. The link is to you for your usage. Does somebody have a question? Okay. And then it's also shown on Wadsworth Community Television and aired on Wadsworth Community Radio. It's a valuable part of your chamber membership benefits, so there's no charge for the video, and you can just contact Janie if you'd like to be one of our spotlights in the Zoom into Business. Also mark your calendars for the Wadsworth Chamber's golf outing on Monday, August 9th at Rowiga Golf Club. Please let us know if you'd like to sponsor or if you'd like to golf, and it's not too early to start registering to golf. Members of the golf committee are, the chair is Dustin Fawkes of DS Benefits Group, and we have Ian Longman of Charles E. Slusser Agency, Joanna Perino of WCTV, Caitlin Schrock of BA Schrock Financial Advisors, Sarah Hayes and Maria Sansonetti at A1 Sports Sales, Christy Beal of State Farm, Michael Reynolds of Pine Valley Golf Course, Mike Reese as Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Rebecca True, Vans Auto Service and Tire Pros, and Stephanie and Janie from the Chamber. It's always a great golf outing. Everybody has a lot of fun, so it's definitely worth attending. And the pig roast dinner following it after the golf is really great. Apparently there's something about beans. I don't know what it is, but eat the beans because they're apparently really good. Last year it was a sellout event, so if you would like to play in the golf outing, contact the chamber office soon. Of course, sponsorships are always appreciated, and for the 3rd year, Vans Auto Service and Tire Pros are the title sponsor. Breakfast sponsor is Ann's Pastry Shop, and the lunch sponsor is, again, this year, Get Go from Wadsworth. So thank you to everybody who's sponsoring. So on to today's program. Today, our program is a refresher course on safety for your home and business. Our guest presenters are from the city of Wadsworth. We have Matt Hiscock, who's the Director of Public Safety. We have David Dorland, the Police Lieutenant, and Robert Lindner, the Fire Chief. These guys do an amazing job for us, and we always appreciate all their work and attention to things. And I know I've personally gotten to work with Matt on a number of things, and he's just a wonderful resource, and we really appreciate everything he does. So I give him a hard time, but he's a great guy. So with that, I will turn it over to the three of you.
Thank you, Kathy. And on behalf of all the Safety Force members, thank you so much as an invitation to get in front of the chamber. We always like the opportunity to engage with the public and talk about the things that we do. I think safety refreshers are always needed and a great idea. So today I have, as Kathy introduced, two very important individuals within our safety forces, Fire Chief Bob Lindner and Police Lieutenant Dave Dorland, who I'm going to spare you all from having to listen to me anymore. And I'm going to have the gentlemen who have all of the knowledge talk to you a little bit today. A little bit about each of those individuals. Fire Chief Bob Lindner has been with the department for 27 years, 17 of those years as a full-time employee. Bob was promoted to Fire Chief, I think, 3 years ago, and he does a tremendous job with all things. I think he started out as a fire inspector. He was promoted to lieutenant, then assistant chief, and then ultimately chief. And he does a wonderful job in all of those roles. And I could not do what I do without his assistance, knowledge, and expertise. On the police side, much the same. Dave Dorland is our current police lieutenant. Dave joined the Wadsworth Police Department in 1994. Dave is a graduate of the Bowling Green State University and a University of Akron Police Academy graduate. Dave served in many roles within the police department in his career, obviously as a patrol officer, then as a sergeant, and most recently promoted to lieutenant in 2016. He's also been a member of the Medina County SWAT team, as well as department level instructor on various topics within the police department and areas including firearms and officer tactics. Dave is, again, a tremendous officer, tremendous leader within our department. And again, I couldn't do what I do as Director of Public Safety without his assistance. I think with that, I'll ask Chief Lindner to get started on some of the fire and EMS safety refresher items for the group.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. So today I'm going to try to get everything across with not only the commercial side for a lot of the businesses, but also things that we can use and do around our house for safety purposes. By all means, if there's any questions, please, I like to be interactive. You know, most likely if you're having an issue or have a question, somebody else has that question as well, just doesn't want to ask. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Since this is a chamber and a lot of businesses, I wanted to start off with some of the commercial items, talk about commercial fire inspections. I always tell people, and this goes commercial and residential, you know, I have a job because some people don't have common sense. If you just try to use some common sense, most likely you're never going to have an issue. Things do happen, just like accidents happen. Things could happen within a business. So a little bit about businesses and fire inspections. We try to do a fire inspection, come into your business once a year to just do a safety overall inspection. Sometimes people feel we're doing this to make money. We don't make money. Our job is safety for not only the people that are going to be visiting that business, the business owners. You know, a lot of times people don't think that if all of a sudden, most people that when they have a fire in their business, depending on the size, they may never reopen. So we're trying to keep, you know, you in business, your employees there. So that's why we go out and do these fire inspections for everybody's safety. So I wanted to talk about some of the violations or things that we find when we go into businesses. And some of these can be used for your home as well. So first of all, I always like to talk about fire extinguishers. Every business is required to have fire extinguishers. Not every business is required to have a fire alarm or a sprinkler system, but every business is required to have a fire extinguisher, at least one. Those have to be inspected at least once a year. If you ever look at your fire extinguishers, a lot of times when I used to go out and do inspections, I would ask, all right, where's your fire extinguisher? Most people forget where it's at because every day they walk by that extinguisher and they just don't pay attention. It's just out of sight, out of mind. They see it every single day. They just don't pay attention. So I like to refresh people's memories of where it's located. But on that, you should have a tag. And this tag sometimes is confusing for people. They'll see a 2019 date on it. Well, those tags are good for 1 year. So if you look at it, they'll have usually all the months on that tag somewhere. And what they do is they punch that with a hole punch, the month and the year that it was done. So those tags are good for 1 year. So if you're walking by, next time you walk by your fire extinguisher, look at that tag. You'll see when it was done last. Those tags are good for 1 year. Just like fire extinguishers should be serviced once a year, same thing if you do have fire alarms or sprinklers, those also have to be serviced. For those that have kitchen systems, suppression systems, those are every 6 months. So a company will come in and service those. It's always a good idea to, try to refresh any employees how to use a fire extinguisher, and even for your home. Hopefully everybody has one for their home. Our big thing is in the commercial business, if you're not trained on it, I don't want anybody to use it. I don't want anybody to get hurt. If somebody that doesn't know how to use it, then they can, ultimately get hurt. We do have a fire extinguisher trainer where we can actually, it's electronic, simulate a fire and let you actually practice that. So if anybody would be interested in that, you can always contact us and we can set something up and come out to your business. And there's no powder, it's all electronic, but you get the same feel of how to use that fire extinguisher. So that's something we offer. This is probably one of the biggest violations we find is extension cords. Everything nowadays needs electronics. The electronic world has increased. Everybody's charging something. There's extension cords everywhere. And in older buildings, they didn't have the need for all these outlets. So what do people do? They use extension cords. Extension cords are only meant in commercial businesses for 90 days or less. And that's basically, in theory, is, all right, we have to use an electronic drill. We hook it up, we do our work. Maybe it's a fan for that day, and then that's it. But most people will run extension cords for everything. So they're not allowed for permanent use. What is allowed are surge strips that have a surge protector. So if it gets overloaded, it's supposed to shut down. So you are allowed to use those. The only requirement with those, you're not allowed to piggyback them or plug one surge strip into another. They come in different lengths. So I have seen where there's 3 surge strips plugged in to get their length instead of going by one that has the length. The big thing with extension cords is, they can get overloaded if you're running the wrong appliance or if it's too high of a wattage. And people, a lot of times we see this and plugs and people will say, well, they sell them at Home Depot. And yes, they do. And you can put them in and use them for your home, even though the same thing, we can have home fires from extension cords, but in a commercial business, only the surge strips are allowed. Another thing that we see often is, it's required in almost all businesses, is exit and emergency lighting. So I always try to tell people, if you ever get a chance in your business, if there's a power outage, look and can you see to find your way out? Or at night, how well is that illuminated? Those are for a couple reasons. The exit and emergency lights, the exits are of course going to identify if there is a power outage, smoke conditions, they'll light up so you can see where the exit door is. Also, if you lose power, so they should always be illuminated. And then if you lose power, they're supposed to run on battery backup. Those can be tested once a year. The egress lights, I like to say, almost looks like on most buildings, it looks like 2 headlights The only time those work is if there is a power outage. Those should be tested at least once a year, just to make sure that they're working. Again, the exit lights should always be illuminated. And then if there's a power outage, then they switch to a battery backup. So usually what we see in the older ones, the bulbs would go out. A lot of the newer lights are LED, so they use less wattage, and they last a lot longer. So that's something we see. The last big item that we see usually in the commercial industry is either storage. Nobody ever builds a building, has enough storage, even at my house. This goes for everybody. Storage is always high demand. So storage can get overloaded, which would often lead to any potential blocked exits. I don't know where to put this. Oh, let's just put it down over here. So we do see that quite often as well. So when we go out and do a fire inspection, when we see these items, usually what we'll do is we'll just try to inform you, educate you, teach you why this is an issue, ask that you get it corrected. We usually give you 30 days and then we come back. We're not doing this to punish anybody. Ultimately, we do these just to educate you and to prevent anything from happening. One thing that we're kind of in that season, coming into that season, that we see a lot of is mulch on the outside. Anytime fresh mulch is put out, usually we have people smoking, they discard their cigarettes or any other smoking material and not properly, they throw it on the ground. A lot of times in the early spring, we will see mulch fires. So keep an eye on that. That's one of the things that we see. And as the warmer weather's coming, we're going to see more people putting mulch out. For the most part, those aren't an issue unless that mulch comes up next to your the vinyl siding on the house. And we've seen that where it'll catch that on fire and go up. So always keep an eye on fresh mulch when it's coming out. Any discarded materials such as cigarettes or cigars or any smoking items like that. That's some of the common violations that we see within the businesses. I'm going to switch over to the residential. And this can go for business as well, but we also look at this. But one thing I want everybody to do today, if they can look, go to your street and see, can you see if somebody called 911, can they find your address? You know where you live, but can you see your address number? This is very frustrating on the fire side, especially the EMS side. We get called to somebody's house, they need help, and we have difficulty finding their number. You know, we're trying to look at that. That's why, hence, they remove script. If a lot of the older homes used to have the script writing for their number. That makes it difficult when you're trying to find somebody's house at night. Another issue that we see is a color. They'll put a white numbers on a white house. It makes it difficult to see. This you know, is not only just for police, fire, EMS, it's also for your UPS, any deliveries that you get, the pizza delivery. If we can see the address number, it makes it so much easier to find your house. The other thing is, can you see it? So if you live, try looking and go into your house both directions. You may always come this direction and you have it on this side of the mailbox, but it's not on the other side. What if for some reason that we would have to come from a different way? Can we still see that address number? So that's a big one that I can't stress enough to always look at that. Within residential, the number one leading cause of fires is, anybody give me a guess? Anybody?
Kitchen fire.
Exactly. Thank you, Jim. Cooking fires are the number one fires that we see, not only in Wadsworth, but all over the United States. That's the number one what we see. So I always try to tell people when you're cooking, you have to be very careful. Usually what we find is people put something on the stove and then walk away. So as I get older, my memory is starting to go on certain things. So I always tell people, hey, take a pot holder with you, a spatula in your hand if you have to leave the kitchen. By having that in your hand, it kind of reminds you that, oh yeah, why do I have this in my hand? I have something on the stove. You have to go back and check on it, whether it's oil or a lot of times we see people boiling eggs and they walk away, they forget about it. You never want to see that happen. If anybody has ever seen hard-boiled eggs explode, it's not a pretty sight, hard to clean up. So be very careful on the cooking fires. That's usually what we see. If you have to walk away from the kitchen, bring something, set a timer, just to remind you that something is on the stove on that. Another issue in the home, we see dryer fires. Make sure people are cleaning their lint traps, the exhaust that goes out at least once a year. That exhaust going out of the house should be checked and cleaned. Run a shop vac through that. You want to get all of that. In the wintertime, it's kind of the same theory with any of your fireplaces, making sure those are clean, because ultimately the same thing, you're going to have that buildup inside that fireplace, the creosote, which can cause fires. The last thing on residential that I would like to say is make sure you guys have smoke detectors and that they're tested. You change the batteries at least once a year. Again, my memory, sometimes I always write notes. A good thing is when I inspect their homes, I say, when was the last time the batteries were changed in the smoke detectors? Nobody can ever remember. So what I either do is on a piece of tape and tape it onto the smoke detector, or tape it on the battery, the month and the year that I did that. That way I will always know when the batteries were changed last. There's been new requirements with smoke detectors. If you look at an older home versus the newer home, the older homes had them on every level. Now, newer homes that are built, they're actually not in every level, but they're also in every single bedroom. So we do recommend people sleep with their bedroom doors shut. That way, if you did have a fire, it keeps that smoke out of the room. The other thing with smoke detectors that ties with that is carbon monoxide detectors. And a lot of people think, oh, that just happens in the wintertime when you're running your furnace. Carbon monoxide can happen all year round. Anything, whether it's a hot water tank, your furnace, garage, having a car in the garage, those items can give carbon monoxide. You can't see it, smell it, taste it, and that's why they call it the silent deadly killer, because you don't know that you have it. So carbon monoxide detectors are extremely important. They have since added those in the Ohio Fire Code. For certain businesses are required to have those as well. So that's something to take a look at it also. So that's real quick. I wanted to talk about some of the fire safety issues. If there's any questions, feel free. I can ask that. The last item I would like to mention, I know Janie, the chamber, has been very supportive, but May 4th, we do have our fire levy coming up on an issue 2. I just wanted to let everybody know this fire levy is a 5-year capital levy. It's a 1.5 mil. The last time we had a levy that was passed was 2010. It expired in 2015. And for those 6 years, we haven't had one. Just want to let you guys know some of the items that this levy will support is turnout gear for the firefighters. Every 10 years, they have to be replaced for the safety reasons. Anything fire related is usually expensive. For example, one set of turnout gear is anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500. So when we have 55 members on the department, that adds up. Some of the other items that this capital levy will support is fire hose, some of the other tools that we need, such as extrication equipment. We also have a big purchase, our aerial ladder. We only have one in the city. It's a 1992, and we try to keep our equipment at least 25 to 30 years. So this truck is almost 30 years old, and just, I don't know how many people have a 30-year-old car that other than a classic. So we try to keep our equipment a long time, but the replacement on that it could be anywhere from 1.3 to 1.6 million. So it's an expensive piece of equipment, but for some of the bigger buildings in town, we can't get, and we wouldn't be able to rescue anybody without that ladder. So it's extremely important. And the last item that we're trying to do with this levy is replace Fire Station 1. That was built in 1963. When that was built, we did not have any type of full-time staffing, nobody staying at the station. The equipment was a lot smaller then. So we have outgrown, we've used the station to its fullest capacity that we can, but just it's time to upgrade and move on to a different station that's not only bigger for all the equipment, but safer for all the firefighters. So that's what I had for my program. Please, if there's any questions and you don't want to ask now, you can always call my office. If you have any questions on the fire extinguisher training or just any general fire safety questions, please feel free to call me. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for sharing a lot of good information there. At this point, I'd turn to Lieutenant Dorland, and Dave, if you could share some policing related safety matters for us.
Thank you, Matt. I'm pleased to be here today. I'm going to touch on about 6 or 7 different items. I'm going to jump around. I could spend a long time talking about each of these topics, but I'll try to be brief on each one. As many of you know, the police department maintains a confidential database for all of the businesses in the city. This registry contains basic information about each business, including the names and phone numbers of key holders for the business. The key holder information is the item that we use the most. It's important because it allows us to call an owner or an employee directly during the non-business hours if we need to have someone with a key respond to the business in the case of an emergency. Unfortunately, this information is what tends to become outdated the fastest due to employee turnover, especially for the larger companies. When the business information does need to be updated, we can email you a new form, which you can complete and email back to us or fax it back to us. And maybe adding this functionality to our website would allow that information to be sent easier and more frequently. With video cameras in businesses and homes being commonplace now, it offers us a really good tool to use during an investigation when something happens at a location. However, it's frustrating for us when we need the video and the manager or the owner doesn't know how to download it from the system in order to share it with us. So please ensure that if you have this technology in your business, that someone there knows how to get the video for us and knows how to operate the equipment. That way you don't have to rely on an outside entity to get what we need for a case that we're working on. If you have certain employees who are able to access video like this, please make them available to us quickly when we have a need to obtain video or other data from your business. Oftentimes the person who knows how to get this video is off work for a couple of days, or they don't respond to our request for a specific video. We then have to waste time by making repeated phone calls or visits to the business in order to get the video that we need. I also suggest that if you do have a video surveillance system, that you have the storage capacity so that video is maintained for longer than just a couple of days. The absolute minimum should be a 7-day retention period, and we like to see a month or longer if possible. Also, please be willing to share your video with us when there's an incident that occurs at your business or maybe at a surrounding area. Sometimes a business requires us to go to court to get a subpoena before the video will be released to us, even if that business is the actual victim of the crime that we're investigating. I don't have a lot of advice to give you on how you can make your businesses safer, just because every business is different. However, one thing that you can do to make sure your business is safe is to make sure that there's sufficient lighting on your property, especially around entry doors and in parking areas where company vehicles and other valuable items might be stored. You may have read about the recent rash of thefts of catalytic converters from vehicles from across the country. And our area has been one of those places that has been hit a few times. These thieves are able to remove the catalytic converter from a vehicle in about a minute. So anything that you can do to protect your business from being targeted is helpful. During the hours when the business is closed, if you have vehicles out in the lot, try to space them out so they're not clustered together. Don't park them at the edge of a parking lot where it's close to a building or vegetation where somebody could hide when they're trying to take something from the vehicle. And of course, keep them in a well-lit area. With the weather getting warmer, this is the time of year that we start to see an increase in thefts from vehicles in neighborhoods and apartment complexes. Sometimes these types of thefts also correspond with the schools being on summer break. Read into that what you want. But a lot of times these types of thefts are done by teenagers or young adults. Most of the subjects who steal from vehicles are looking for an easy target, which allows them to get into a car quickly, easily, and quietly. They also want to steal from as many vehicles as possible before being spotted. As a result, they generally tend to target the vehicles that are left unlocked. It's amazing the number of people that we come across who leave their car doors unlocked at their house when the vehicles are parked outside. A lot of these thieves are looking for money because it's easy to carry, but they will also sometimes take other valuables like phones and laptops and tools, prescription medications, briefcases, especially when all these items are left in plain view and they're easy to see from outside the vehicle. Like I mentioned, the vast majority of these thefts are done from vehicles when the vehicles are unlocked. However, just because the thieves look for an easy target doesn't mean that they won't use force to gain entry into a vehicle if the potential prize is worth it. The more attractive the item is, the more likely it is that force will be used to get into a vehicle. And unfortunately, the most common tactic used to do so is to throw a large rock through the side window of the car. So the best deterrent to these types of thefts is to lock your car doors, lock your glove box, and then don't leave the valuables in plain view. Package thefts from home exteriors have been popular in the past, but these have become less frequent as a lot of people were working from home during the past year. Other deterrents have been because of doorbell cameras or other home cameras that are posted around somebody's property. And I think it's pretty well known out there that these cameras will alert the homeowner when it detects motion. So I think people are less likely to approach a house, especially when they see that doorbell camera on the porch. The doorbell cameras, as you may know, they're very effective. They've become pretty inexpensive and they're pretty easy to install now. So we're seeing them very prevalent in a lot of the houses in the area. The post office has a really good free service called Informed Delivery. This sends an email to you every day with a photo of each piece of mail that's going to be delivered to your house that day. That way you know when mail is going to be delivered, and if you don't get that particular item, you can start to kind of look into what may have happened to it. The other benefits of, or the other reasons that the package thefts have declined is because these delivery services are sending out really accurate, precise notifications to people when a package is going to be delivered. Amazon, UPS, FedEx, they all have the ability to send notifications through the apps or through text messages to let you know when a package is due, when it's been delivered, or how many stops away the delivery driver is from your home or business. As the world has become increasingly virtual over the past couple of years, so have the thieves in trying to steal money from people online and over the phone. These types of thieves can be very skilled and very believable, especially to the elderly. There's a multitude of scams out there, so I can't even start to cover all of them. But one scam that we tend to see periodically is the grandchild in jail scam. Someone calls an elderly person and claims to be their grandson or granddaughter. They say they're in another state and they've been arrested and they need money to get bailed out of jail. This can be a very effective technique to get money out of someone because it may be hard for the grandparent to determine if the person they are speaking with is actually their grandchild. The scammer just needs to have a very small amount of information in order to be convincing to that person. Probably the most popular scam that we're seeing these days is the type that tend to bully the victim into believing that they're in trouble and that they need to send money to avoid being arrested. The scammer will claim that they're from the government, such as the IRS or law enforcement agency, and they tell the victim that a warrant is going to be issued for not paying taxes or for some other reason. They then give the victim the opportunity to avoid being arrested by paying their fine or by paying their overdue taxes. Simply, the best tactic to deal with these types of scam artists is to hang up the phone. If someone calls you that you're unfamiliar with or that you weren't expecting, then just assume it's a scam, especially if they're asking for money. If you suspect that it's actually a legitimate call, but you're not sure, then you can hang up and call the business back using the published phone number that's available. What we're seeing when these scammers are asking for money is they want the victim to go out and buy a gift card and then provide the gift card numbers to them over the phone. After this is done, the gift card is quickly emptied by the thief and then used at some store, either in another state or somewhere else in another country. And unfortunately, since the gift card is not a banking instrument, then the lost money is not recoverable and the victim is simply out the amount of money that they provided. We also discourage people from making large purchases, such as a car, online, unless it's from a reputable, well-known company. Those individual purchases through whether it's eBay or some other commerce app can be a scam, and the person that sends thousands of dollars to someone thinking that they're buying something from a private owner is going to be lost that money if they don't get the item back. Luckily, our department is pretty advanced with technology-based investigative techniques, and we have really good investigators who are familiar with those techniques. But as a local police department, we're generally pretty limited in what we can do when the suspect is unknown or out of the area. A lot of these scams do target the elderly. So when you hear about new trends and information, please pass them along to your parents, your grandparents, your friends and neighbors who may not be very tech savvy or who may not be able to understand some of these scams and the methods that they use. Hopefully you're following our Facebook page or the Facebook pages of your local law enforcement agencies, as we tend to advertise some of the current scams that are out there. And speaking of Facebook, our police department Facebook page has been in existence for over 10 years, and we have about 18,000 followers, or 18,000 loyal followers. The nice thing about Facebook is that any one of our followers can share one of our posts to our friends, or to their friends, I'm sorry. And that expands the audience for the information that we're putting out there. For example, our 3 highest Facebook posts this far in 2021 have reached 55,000 people, 68,000 people, and 89,000 people. To put that into perspective, 89,000 people is more than the combined populations of Wadsworth, Brunswick, and Medina. So we have a tremendous platform for getting information out to the public. Overall, as you know, Wadsworth is a very safe community, but don't take that for granted. It certainly is not as safe as it used to be, and a lot more goes on in the city than people are aware of. And the final point that I want to address is to encourage you to contact the police when you see something suspicious. We get calls from people all the time when they apologize for bothering us, or they wait a significant amount of time from when they see something before they call us because they were just unsure if they should call us in the first place. One of our main jobs is to respond to and investigate suspicious persons and vehicles and situations. And our officers like to do that kind of stuff. They take pride in doing a good job. We would much rather check out something right away than have to take a report later on after a crime has been committed. So it not only makes our job more difficult, but it's frustrating when we could have prevented someone from being victimized, and if we could have been able to respond sooner to a situation. That's all I have. I'll be happy to entertain any questions you have.
So Matt, do you have any closing thoughts? I don't see any questions in the chat.
So without any questions, I just wanted to touch upon a very important issue, and Chief Lindner had talked about our upcoming fire levy. Just to add a couple of points for the group there. There have been lots of questions fielded from our community in regards to different aspects of the levy, and I wanted to make sure I tell this group, first and foremost, being a special election, please get out and vote. The folks you know, encourage them to get out and vote. We need every yes vote this particular year. There are lots of questions about the levy. Chief talked about all of the aspects and the projects that we hope to fund with a successful levy campaign. And I can't stress enough that it's not just about a fire station. There are annual expenses of the fire department that we have to make from a capital perspective that protects the people who serve all of us. And for me, having gone many years without the funding source at this point, we have reached somewhat the end of line if we don't do something to refund our fire department. And that is a cause for great concern for me as the public safety director, because one, first and foremost, I have to protect those who protect all of us. If we don't have the right funding level to do that, it results in impacts to the quality of service we can provide. And no one wants to see that happen. And we want to get out in front of our community and ask for the support now before we get into such a dire need, which we are not there yet, but are getting there without that funding level. So it's important. And quickly, it's a common question that's asked, how much will this cost me? We encourage all of the voters to go to the Medina County Auditor's website and use the tax estimator tool that they have there. Plug in your specific property valuations, and it's a really quick process to see what it will really impact you and what it will cost an individual property owner. In general, we oftentimes use the $100,000 property valuation to talk about levies. In this particular instance, if you are an owner of a property valued at $100,000, the approximate fire levy tax cost to you would be $52.50, a little more than $14 to provide an extremely important service that you're going to need to want to be there if you need it. And so the reality is, I think it's a small price to pay to ensure that we continue to have those firefighting services available to us. So please get out on May 4th, vote for the fire levy, encourage those you know to do that. Also, there is a wealth of information on the department's webpage, as well as on the Friends of the Fire Levy Facebook page. Please get out to those pages, learn more about the needs of your fire department, spread the word, direct folks who have questions, who continue to have concerns about the levy to those pages, and I think they'll find all the answers that they need. And once again, thank you to the Chamber for allowing us to share some of the refresher safety information and talk briefly about our levy. It's so vitally important to us, but also to our community, so thank you.
So we did have a question come in. Given all that's gone on in the past year across the nation, what has police support been like from our community towards the PD? So I don't know if Matt or Dave, who wants to take that one?
Yeah, I can answer
Dave,
that
I think
question.
I'll let you handle the first part and I'll fill in any blanks.
Sure. We're really lucky to be in Wadsworth. We have great community support, and that's been consistent over the past year, and maybe even more so in some respects. We get messages all the time on our Facebook page. We get stuff delivered to the department all the time, with food items or thank you cards from different school groups and churches, different organizations in town. So I think they've even stepped up their game just in the past year because they do see what's going on across the country. So we're very lucky. And I like to attribute that to the fact that we've put in a lot of time and effort with the community to remain engaged with people, treating people with dignity and respect, and doing policing the right way. And even though that's not our intention as far as doing these types of things so we can be rewarded in the future, it's just the right way to do business. And it's always been that way since I've been here. And we like to teach our new officers that same philosophy and maintain that same culture within the department, and having that same strong relationship with the city and the people that we come in contact with. And again, just treating people as humans and with respect and dignity, and that pays off in the long run. So we're very lucky, and it's always nice for us to see these cards that are delivered by the different school groups or Cub Scouts, and they're handmade, and you can tell that the students or the kids put a lot of time into it, and they really are honest about what their thoughts and feelings are. And it's nice to see that the parents and the leaders of these groups and the teachers are encouraging the students to show their appreciation for us.
Couldn't say it any better. Lieutenant Dorland hit all of the high points. Just so extremely thankful to our community and the support that they provide, the police department. And while we've had some tough questions throughout this period, I'm proud to say that it all begins and ends with our people, and our people are tremendous, consummate professionals, and I believe we've done it the right way for a long time. And so I think we're lucky to be served by the police department that we have, and we're lucky to have the community that supports them in their efforts. And so it's been a very, very good relationship.
So I'm going to argue with the lucky word. I think it's been by design. I think that the right people have been hired, and we have terrific officers in all of our departments who understand how to treat people with respect and dignity. And in addition to that, we have a great community that has been built on collaboration. And I love the collaboration we hear, Jim and I hear all the time from businesses, how it really is a collaboration with our police and fire, that they can reach out, they can talk about things, they don't have to be afraid that there's consequences, they can have real conversations. And I think that's a tribute to your whole department. Great. Okay, well, no more questions. So as we mentioned, our next meeting is May 19th, where we will hear from Dr. Andy Hill on the state of our schools. So we're excited about that one. That one will be in person, and you must register. I can't say that enough. There's nothing worse than when the people show up and they hadn't registered. And then the next meeting after that will be June 23rd, which will also be in person. The program for that one is the annual nonprofit fair. So that information for the fair is being mailed out this week to all the Chamber's nonprofit agencies. If you're a nonprofit and you did not receive information and want to participate, please contact the office, because this is a great opportunity to share what your organization does with our community and be able to get support and help and make sure that the word is out. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you being here. Janie has something to say.
I do. Hey, Joanna had something to say about the open house at Berkshire Hathaway. So is she still around?
She is.
I am still here. That's why I typed it in the chat. I just wanted everybody to know that Michael Reese and I are both realtors with Berkshire Hathaway. And at the grand opening, Janie's ears are going to perk up. There's going to be a food truck there and free margaritas and free food. So everyone's invited. If you can come, it's just a short time. I think 4:30 to, I have to look at the time, but 4:30 to 6, something like that. We'll do the ribbon cutting. And so everyone's invited.
Yeah, the ribbon cutting is at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And then
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and follow the margarita truck wherever it goes next. Yeah. Thank you.
Tom Stugmeyer, did you have a question?
Yes, Chief and Lieutenant, you want to mention something about the ball game on Sunday that's going to take place in honor of Andy Hunter up at the high school.
All right, sure. Yeah, this Sunday, basically, we did this 2 years ago. We had our first softball event, Fire versus Police. Unfortunately, the police won the first one. We actually, if we would have played the right amount of innings, the Fire would have won. But we decided, hey, let's play a couple more. So unfortunately, the police department did win at the end. But, you know, with COVID, we had last year off on that. So we're happy to bring that back. And this year, you know, we are dedicating it to our longtime member that passed away, Andy Hunter. So this is going to be a memorial of him. We're all going to have special shirts made. So it's up at the stadium, or I'm sorry, up at the high school this Sunday. I have to double check on the time. I think it was
I think it's
1
4 o'clock. I think
4
it was,
o'clock.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, 4
Yeah,
o'clock.
yeah, it's 4 o'clock on the Facebook page. I was gonna say we had some there as well, posting about it. So hopefully come out, cheer on the fire department. You know, we'll hopefully hit a bunch of home runs.
Great.
I don't know
I
if
want you to
Dave
know,
wants to
I
hit.
do have pom-poms. Okay.
Perfect. You're on our side, Janie.
I was going to say, but Janie, how do you pick who to cheer for? That sounds dangerous. Okay.
Thank you to everyone. This has been so wonderful, so enlightening, and just a good refresher.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you.
See everybody next month.
All right. Thanks, everybody.